Welcome to John Gets Games. Today I'll be doing a full playthrough for Automobiles. This game plays 2 to 4 players, but for the sake of this video I'll be doing a 3-player game. And this is a racing game where you're running around a track, and the main mechanic of the game is bag building, where you have a bag full of different colored cubes. You pull the cubes out randomly, and then much like a deck builder, you can activate them as well as use some of them to buy more cubes to throw into your bag. I will explain the game as we're playing it, so let's jump right in. Here's the starting setup for a 3-player game of Automobiles, and we are going to do a 3-lap race, which is the standard way you play the game. We will be playing the purple player, which starts in the first position, and then the blue and yellow players will go after. Automobiles is a bag building game, and each of the different players has a bag in which they're going to put these colored cubes inside. Every player starts with 5 yellow cubes, 5 white cubes, and then 2 of these light gray cubes. But before we start playing, each player now has the ability to buy a couple more cubes to throw into their bags. So if you look under the starting position for the 3 cars, you'll see dollar amounts. It says $10 for first, then $11 and $12 for the first 3 players. Now before we start playing, each player is going to spend that much money in grabbing new cubes to put into their bag, and we start with the first player, which is us, and we have $10 to spend. There are essentially 2 different types of cubes in the game. There are gear cubes, which I've put here in the middle of the track, and then there are these other 5 cubes up here, which are in different colors, and they do different things. I'm just going to call them action cubes. So now I've put the actual cubes down on the cards associated with the colors, and you can see that there is white, gray, dark gray, and then black, which is associated with those gears, and then the action ones are much more colorful. In the top left of these gear cards and the top right of the action cards, you will see a dollar sign and a number, and that tells you how much money it costs to grab one of those cubes and put it in the bag. And so we are going to begin. We are purple, and we have $10 to spend. The gear cubes are definitely the simplest in the game, and if you look down here, you'll see that the white cubes let you move 1 white space, the light gray lets you move 1 light gray, and then 1 dark gray and 1 black. And if you look at the board here, you'll notice that white spots are the smallest, then light gray are worth 2 white, dark gray is worth 2 light gray and 4 of these white, and finally black is 1 spot here, which is 2 dark gray, 4 light gray, and 8 white spots. So these cubes are better at making you go really fast around the track. And since we start out with 2 of these light gray cubes and none of the better ones, I figure let's grab 2 of these dark gray cubes. They're $3 each, so that spends 6 of our $10. And now we have 4 more dollars, which we can spend down here, or we could spend up here. The yellow cubes, we already start with 5 of them, so that's not too interesting. The purple ones, they let you remove up to 6 cubes from your discard pile, which is going to be great once we start getting this cruddy brown wear cubes into our bag, but right now we don't care about that as much. We can't afford this blue one. It costs 6. I'll talk about what that does later. But we look over here, this one costs 3 and this one costs 4. The red one lets you discard cubes from your active pile in order to move 3 spaces of the color 1 below that cube, which is good once we have more of these better cubes, but it also gets you a wear, which is just bad. It gunks up your engine every time you use it. I think it probably makes more sense for us to grab one of these greens right here. They cost 4. It lets you draw 2 cubes and place 1 in your active pile and 1 in your discard. So you do have to get rid of one of them, but it lets you mine for your better cubes a little faster, and it doesn't cost a wear. Also, if we went with this red, we would be wasting money, and I don't want to do that. So we'll take this green. Now the blue player gets to spend $11, and they decide to grab 1 blue for 6, 1 red for 3, and then 1 of these purples for 2. And finally, the yellow player gets to spend $12. And they decide just to grab these 2 dark gray for 6, and then they'll grab 1 of these blues for the other 6. And just to note that there are tons of these cubes in the game, I'm just putting a small amount on the cards so you can see what they look like. Alright, now we can start the game. We'll each throw all these cubes into our respective bags. And lastly, after giving the bag a good shake, each player is going to pull 7 of these cubes out, and they're going to put them down into their active area. Alright, so for our first turn, we have 4 yellow cubes, and if we look at the card, we'll see that they allow us to remove 1 gear cube from our discard pile to gain 1 gear cube of 1 gear higher, which is great. It lets us upgrade these cubes into better ones. The problem is we don't currently have any cubes in our discard pile, because as we use them, they'll go into the used pile, and then only at the end of our first turn will those cubes go into the discard pile. So for this first turn, these yellow cubes are effectively useless. However, each one is worth $2 towards purchasing new cubes, which I'll get to once we do a little bit of racing. So let's go ahead and use our gear cubes. And the way this works is you actually put the cubes out on the racetrack in the spots that you want to move your car to, but you don't actually move your car yet. So for instance, I could put this white cube here, and this light gray cube there, and the dark gray cube there. The rule here is you always have to be moving forward or diagonal, which means we don't even need this white cube here. We could just go from this spot to this spot. But if you'll notice, once we're here, we don't have any white spots to go to, And if we were to use this spot right there, we would have no way to use our dark gray cube, and that is a little bit shorter of a distance going around the track than this. So I think it makes more sense to go ahead and do this, and then this cube goes back into our little active area because we haven't actually used it yet. So now it's time to buy, and as we saw before, these yellow cubes are worth $2 each. Unfortunately, the white cubes are worth $0, so that's pretty much a wasted cube for us on this first turn of the game, but looking at our active area, we have $8 worth of cubes that we can buy and put into our bag. Let's go ahead and look at this blue one here. We'll see that it would gain us aware every time we use it, but it lets us place 2 cubes from our discard pile into our active pile to use again on a turn, so we get to reuse the really good cubes that we might have had already. Also, each blue cube is worth 3 buying power. I think this is a pretty great deal. It probably makes sense for us to buy one of these, which is going to be 6 out of our 8 total, and we don't have any of these purple cards yet. And these just let you remove up to 6 cubes from your discard pile, so this lets us thin our bag down, also just get rid of some of those wear cubes that we're going to be getting, and I'll explain in just a second. So let's get a purple and a blue. These new cubes go into our used pile, and so do all these cubes because we have used them to purchase cubes. It's now time to move our car, so it essentially travels down the path of the cubes that we've placed on the board, and it goes to the farthest forward section of the zone on the track that they get to. Once we've moved our car, however, we need to account for the decline, which is essentially the amount of wear and tear that your car takes for doing that given turn. If you look at this graph here, you'll notice that on the dark gray line, it shows 3 of these brown wear cubes. What that means is you look at the darkest color spot that you went to on the track as you're running around, not necessarily the spot that you ended on, and you're going to get wear cubes equal to that amount based off of this little board here. This little symbol down here shows that you don't actually take any wear if you end your turn directly behind somebody else because you're drafting. Unfortunately, we are the star player. There's nobody to draft behind. So what that means is we get these 3 wear cubes, and all of this is also going to go into our used pile. And the final thing for us to do is to scoot all of these cubes over into our discard pile, and then we're going to reach into our bag and we're going to pull 7 new cubes out, and that will end our turn. It's now the blue player's turn, and they're in a similar predicament to us with these yellow cubes not being able to do anything because they have nothing in their discard. So they're going to go ahead and grab their gear cubes, and what they'll do is they'll put a white cube there, then they have 2 of these light gray ones, which lets them scoot over to there, and then finally this last white cube will let them place into this zone. And one thing that I like to do as I'm playing is while I'm putting these cubes out, I take the wear cubes that are associated with the highest value that I did, and I just put them down right onto that spot on the track so that I don't forget to grab those and put them in my area at the end of my turn. It's now time for the blue player to buy cards. They have 6 buying power because each yellow is worth 2, and they're just going to go ahead and grab 2 of these dark gray cubes and put them into their discard pile. This uses all these cubes, and they now move their car all the way up to here, and then all these cubes are going to come back into their used pile, and then that pretty much ends their turn. They've done their decline by grabbing the wear. This slides over here, and they're going to draw 7 new cubes. Okay, it's the yellow player's turn. Much like the rest of us, they can't use their yellow cubes on this first turn because there's nothing in their discard pile. So they're going to grab their cubes, and they're going to go ahead and put a light gray there, and then they're going to put a light gray there, and a dark gray, which kind of shifts into this spot. And you'll notice they're right behind me here. There are little spots that fit the different cars in these different zones. The white zones are the only ones on the board that can only take one specific car. And in this case, they've decided to end their turn there. And because they, well, first of all, they're not using this, and it gives them no buying power. It just goes into their used area. And now they don't get to put any brown cubes down on the board for decline because they're ending their turn right behind me. So they're really close to us, and they did a better job by not putting all these brown cubes into their bags. And the reason the brown cubes are bad is just because you don't get to use them for anything. So they just kind of slow you down every time you pull them out of the bag. You don't like them at all. So the yellow player has 6 buying power with these 3 yellow cubes. They're going to go ahead and grab one of these gray cubes for $3 and then spend another $3 grabbing a red cube. These go into their used pile. They're going to go ahead and drive along the path they've done. These cubes go into their used pile. They'll go into the discard pile, and finally they get to draw up 7 new cubes. Okay, so it's back to us, and we actually get to use this yellow cube here. We'll put it into the used area to do its effect of removing 1 gear cube, which is again white, light gray, dark gray, or black, from our discard pile to gain 1 gear cube of 1 higher gear. So if we look over here, well, I'll tell you what, these white cubes are not that great. They go really slowly around the track. So let's go ahead and get rid of this one right here, and we'll essentially upgrade it into a gray cube. And like always, when you gain cubes, you put them into your used area. And now we have 3 white cubes, a dark gray, and a green. So the dark gray would let us zoom along here, but then we'd have no ability to use any of these 4 white cubes that are in our area. Fortunately for us, we have this green cube here, so let's go ahead and use that. And if we look at the card, we see that it lets us draw 2 cubes from our bag and then place one into our active pile so we can immediately use it this turn, and the other one goes into our discard pile. Hopefully, one of them is much better than the other. So we go into our bag to get 2 cubes, but we find there's only one in there, and it's a light gray one, which is really good for us because we needed that in order to get back into the white land. But we need to get one more cube from the bag, and we don't have any more. So we're going to grab all the cubes from our discard pile, throw them back into our bag, give that a good little shake, and pull one of these out, and it's a yellow. Okay, well, we definitely don't want to use this yellow because we have nothing in our discard pile now, so we'll just put that in there, and this light gray goes into our active area. So now we got a whole mess of these gear cubes, which we can definitely make use of. So let's take this dark gray one and put it here, which is going to give us 3 wear in decline, so I'll just put those right on the board right now. Next up, this gray will actually just take us here, which doesn't seem great because you could also use the light gray to go all the way over there. It has 2 different colors on that spot, but now we have access to these white cubes. We can put one here, and then we can go here, and then finally all the way over there, which is a pretty good little turn as far as this race car driver is concerned. We now look to our active area, and we have no cubes at all, so we don't buy any cubes to put into our bag. So let's go ahead and race our little car. He drives along this path all the way over to there, and then all these cubes are going to get thrown into our used pile and then stuffed into our discard pile. And then we grab 7 more cubes from the bag. Oh man, that's terrible. We got 3 of these wear cubes. All right, we definitely need to find a way to get rid of those. All right, it's the blue player's turn, and they're going to open up by spending both of their yellow cubes to upgrade 2 gear cubes from their discard pile to the next spot. So they're going to get rid of both of these white cubes, and they're both going to get turned into light gray ones. Next up, they're going to spend this purple cube, which lets them remove up to 6 cubes from their discard pile. They only want to get rid of 2 of them, that being these 2 wear cubes, so they don't accidentally draw them into their active area like we did and have to deal with the consequences of it, so both of these are gone. So now they have this 1 blue cube here, so they're going to spend it, and the first thing that happens is they gain a wear just to their car because being supercharged is going to do a little bit of damage to their system, but now they can place up to 2 of the cubes from their discard pile into their active pile. And they're going to grab this light gray and this dark gray, and they're going to combine that with these white ones to start moving on the racetrack. They'll begin by accelerating into the white parts of the board, then they'll go a little bit faster into this light gray, and finally speed down with this dark gray all the way over to that spot on the board, which is going to end up giving them 3 wear cube that they're going to have to deal with. They have no cubes in their active area, so they can't purchase any new cubes, and now the car is going to follow that line all the way over there, so they're in the lead for the moment, and all these cubes are going to come into our used pile, or the blue player's used pile, and scoot over into the discard. Finally, they draw up to 7, but they only have 1, which means all these cubes are going to go back into the bag, and then they will draw 6 more. It's now the yellow player's turn, and I forgot to mention that at the end of every single player's turn, you're supposed to obey inertia, and every single car on the board moves forward until the end of whatever colored zone they're in. So when we vacated that spot on our turn, the yellow car should have moved up to this spot, so this is where they are for the beginning of their turn. They've got 4 white cubes, 2 yellow cubes, and a blue cube. The first thing that they want to do is spend these 2 yellow cubes in order to upgrade this white cube into a light gray and this light gray into a dark gray. So both those go into their used area. So at first glance, they're in a bit of trouble. They only have these white cubes, and where their car is at, they can't actually get to any of these white slots. However, they've got this blue cube, and remember, when you use a blue cube, you're going to gain a wear, but it lets you pull 2 cubes from your discard area into your active area. And they've decided they are going to be pulling a light gray and one of these yellow cubes, actually. Those go into their main area, and now what they're going to do is take all of these here, and they are going to place them out on the board so they can put this light gray here, and then this white goes there, there, and there, and they're actually not going to use this final white cube because they want to end their turn behind me so that they draft and they don't take any penalty wear cubes. They've now got this yellow cube which they can use, and they're actually going to take one of these dark gray cubes and they're going to turn it into a black cube. These black cubes are only good for these 2 long stretches of the board, but if you can get yourself in a position to access it, it can be a very big deal. Plus, the black cubes are worth 3 buying power, which is not too shabby. So the yellow player drives along that path. They end right behind us, so they don't take any wear cubes. And then all these cubes go into their discard, and they're going to draw 7 more cubes, but they only have 1 cube, much like the blue player, so they're going to grab these, put them in here, and get 6 more. It's back to us, and we had a really bummer of a draw in the last turn. We got 3 wear cubes, which only leaves us with 4 decent cubes left over. We've got only a light gray and a dark gray as far as moving around this track is concerned. Fortunately, we do have this light gray spot, and we could move up to here for the dark and end behind the blue player so we won't take any of these wear cubes, but man, it means we're not really moving very fast. We do have this blue cube, however, which will gain us a wear, but we could pull 2 cubes out from our main area, so we want to think if that makes sense. So I think we're going to do something a little creative, but we'll start off by spending this yellow cube here in order to get rid of another one of these white cubes. We want a light gray cube instead of the white, so that goes into our used area. And now let's go ahead and use this blue cube. That's going to gain us a wear, but again, it lets us pull 2 cubes from our discard pile and put them back into our active area. And we're going to grab this light gray cube and this green cube. So the reason we're going for a light gray cube instead of this dark gray cube is because we already have a light gray, so this would allow us to go 1, 2, and then jump ahead of blue with the dark gray. We don't get kind of caught behind him. And the reason we are getting this green cube is because it lets us draw a couple more cubes out of our bag. And we know that there's less than 7 cubes in the bag. You're never allowed to count, but you're allowed to like kind of feel it. And I can tell that there's less than 7, which means all these cubes would go back in there. And we know that one of these cubes is purple. And purple cube would allow us to get rid of some of this wear. And we have lots of wear coming in. So let's grab this green cube and then immediately use it to draw 2 cubes out of this bag. And we really hope that the one of the 2 that we grab is a purple, and is it? Aha, it is, awesome. So those, oh wait, first of all, we have to use one of these or the other. So obviously we will discard the yellow, and we get the purple, and we can now get rid of up to 6 cubes. So we definitely want to get rid of these 3 brown ones, but we could also get rid of 3 more cubes from our area, and these yellows are pretty good for upgrading, it's true. These whites are really not that great, and the less cubes we have in our bag, the quicker you're going to get to the really good stuff. So I think it probably makes sense for us to get rid of a couple of these. And since we can only take 3, let's go ahead and get rid of 1 yellow and 2 of these whites. So that used the purple one here, and we may as well just take these wear cubes and put them into our use pile. We really wish we could have just put them right into the discard, but that's not the way the game works. And now we get to use our gear cubes. So we get to go there, there, and then all the way up there. So that kind of doesn't really put us in the lead because blue is probably going to get around us, but we can also see what blue has coming. And they have 2 light grays and a dark gray. If we go here, then that means that a dark gray would just bring them to here, and it kind of stops them from moving around. So they're going to have to work around us, and they don't have a great way to get ahead of us. So we've also kind of blocked blue, which I like the idea of. But unfortunately, we went to the dark gray spot, which gets us 3 more wear cubes. So we really need, I think, to get more of those purple cubes, but that's okay. So we drive all the way up to the front here, and all these are going to go into our use pile and our discard. Sure enough, when we go to draw 7, we only pull 1 out. So we'll go throw all these back into the bag and get 6 more. It's the blue player's turn, and they pulled 2 wear, so I'll just put those right into the use area first. And now they're going to activate their red cube. Now that is going to gain them 1 wear immediately, and then they get to discard 1 gear cube from their active area to move up to 3 spaces of 1 gear color lower than the discarded cube. So they can discard this dark gray cube in order to go 3 light gray spots. And what I usually do in this case is I use this ability cube to kind of show the spot on the board. So they're going to go 1, 2, 3 gray spots. So I'll just kind of put that there, and then they'll get to take these 2 light grays to go to those 2 spots, and finally they'll drop this white one down to make it all the way over there. And they're only going to take 2 wear cubes for doing that because the highest up they got was the light gray section. They have no cubes with which to buy further cubes, so they'll race on ahead up to that spot. And then all these are going to go into their used and into their discard. It's now the yellow player's turn. They're going to start off by putting the 1 white gear cube there, and then they're going to discard this dark gray cube in order to go 3 light gray spots. So that'll be 1, 2, 3. And now they've got these 2 light grays, which will let them go there. And they have decided that they are going to put their spot right there, and that's going to get them 2 wear because light gray is the highest up on the track they went. And now they have 4 buying power because each of these yellows is worth 2 in order to grab more cubes. And they're going to use all 4 to get a green nitro cube, which is going to let them draw 2 cubes and then discard 1 and keep 1. So this goes into their used area. Their car is going to race along the path that they've already defined. That's going to leave them there, and after 2 turns for each player, we are actually in last place, which is a bit unfortunate. It's back to us, and we don't have a very good racing turn ahead of us. First of all, just going to move both of these 2 wear cubes into the used area. And now, we only have 1 gear cube, and it's light gray, which means we could go to here, which is not the worst thing in the world because it would mean we are drafting, we won't take any more wear, but man, we're really not getting around the track by doing that. We do have this purple cube, which is kind of terrible for us because we have nothing in our discard pile to get rid of. And we have this blue cube, which is also really not that great for us because that lets you pull cubes from your discard pile and put them back in your active area. Fortunately, the purple is going to give us 2 buying power, and the blue will get us 3 buying power, so I think we're not going to be moving very far, but we're definitely going to be upgrading our bag this turn. So we will spend that light gray to go 1 slot ahead, and then we have 2 buying power for the purple and the yellows, and then 3 for the blue, which gives us 9 buying power total. And with 9, there is a variety of things we could do. We could get some more of just these straight up gear cubes because they just get us around the track. But I think we definitely want to get at least 1 more purple. We only have 1 right now, and we have lots of wear we need to keep getting rid of because it just gunks up our engine. And these green nitro spots are really good because they let us draw cubes out, and if one of them is a wear, then we can just discard it immediately and lets us dig for things we really want. So that's 2 and 4 is 6, leaves us 3 more, and that red is really nice. I think that's the main reason that the yellow and blue are so far ahead of this. They've done a really good job of spending a dark gray to get 3 light gray movements, and it would also be a good reason to get some of these black cubes. You could use that to get 3 dark gray movements. So anyway, I think we're going to get all 3 of these different cubes, and that's going to exactly spend our 9. So that spends all of these cubes. They go into the used. We move 1 spot forward on the board, but we don't take any wear because we're drafting, and now we're going to go ahead and draw back to our hand of 7. It's the blue player's turn, and they have 2 wear, which they'll just go into the used immediately. And man, they are happy about this. They're going to just spend this purple, which is the pit captain, and lets them remove up to 6 things from their discards. They're going to get rid of 5 wear, which is really huge, and they are also going to get rid of this white cube because it's really not doing much for them. So that's a pretty powerful single cube action. Next up, they're going to spend this yellow cube, and they're going to discard this dark gray cube in order to get a black cube, which goes into their used area. And now they just have these 3 cubes left over for moving on the board. So they'll move 1 light gray up to there, 1 light gray up to there, and then they'll use this white to go into that spot, which funnily enough is where they started the game. So they're going to take 2 wear for going on the light gray spots. And now they have no cubes with which to buy more cubes. So they will race along to their track back into the 2nd place spot, but it's kind of funny because right now they're actually winning. All this stuff goes into their discard pile and they draw 7 more cubes. It's the yellow player's turn, and they're going to spend both of their yellow cubes doing a bit of gearbox upgrading. They're going to get rid of this white cube in order to grab a gray cube. And then they've decided to get rid of this dark gray cube to grab another black cube. So they already have 1 in their player area. They're definitely doubling down and trying to go really fast on those straightaways. And this leaves them with 3 white, 1 dark gray, and a black. Unfortunately for them, they have no access to dark gray or black, especially with the white ones, so that means all they can really do is go 3 white spaces on the board, and then you can use these ones for buying more cubes. The black cubes give 3 buying power, and the dark gray give 2, so they have 5 total buying power. And since they've invested so heavily in these black cubes, they're going to grab another red to try and cash it out on some really fast dark gray spots. That's going to cost them 3, and they're going to grab another purple, which costs 2. So all these go into their used area. And now they're going to move their car, but when you only go into white zones, you're going to take a single wear for the decline. So they'll zoom along over to that spot there, and then all this stuff is going to go into their discard pile. Okay, it's back to us, and man, we are really not doing that well. We, first of all, should slide all the way up via inertia, which helps us a little bit, but we're definitely behind right now. Looking at our active area, we have 2 wear, so we definitely need to do something about our wear situation. And now we've got a white, a light gray, a dark gray, yellow, and a green, so a few different options. And I think it pretty much always makes sense to use the green cubes first because that lets us draw new cubes from the bag and it might modify how we're going to spend our turn. So we're going to grab 2 of these out of the bag, keep 1, and discard the other. Oh, let's see here, a light gray and a yellow. Well, the yellow doesn't make any sense at all because we already have 1 yellow, and surprisingly enough, we only have a single gear cube in our discard area, so that yellow can upgrade it, and this one would have nothing to do. So we'll go ahead and discard the yellow and grab the light gray. So we may as well do that. We'll spend our yellow cube in order to get rid of this light gray cube and grab another dark gray one. And at this point we can use our gear cubes, and we don't have too many great options here, honestly. We could spend a white cube to go there, and then like a light gray, a light gray again, and then a dark gray. That gets us all the way over here. But we'll be taking 3 wear. The alternative is we could just stop there and only take 2 wear. The real question is it worth it to make it all the way over to here in order to do that? Now that does put us next to a black zone, but I don't think we have any black cubes in our bag at this point. But I guess it is a racing game, And if we didn't do this, we would just have 2 buying power, and there's not a whole lot we can do with 2 buying power, so let's just go ahead and do it. And that's going to give us 3 wear, unfortunately, for the decline. We've got nothing to buy, so let's go ahead and drive along that route all the way up to the front here, and then all this stuff is going to go into our use pile and then into our discard. And when we go into our bag, we find we only have 4 cubes, and oh wow, that's terrible. A dark gray and 3 wear, which is pretty bad. But now we're going to go ahead and put all these cubes into our bag and draw 3 more. It's the blue player's turn, and they're going to open by spending a blue cube, which is going to get them a wear, but it's also going to let them pull 2 cubes from their discard and put them back into their active pile, and they are going to grab this black and this red, which is a pretty amazing combo. So now they'll grab the light gray, go here, the dark gray to go all the way up there, and now this is a pretty amazing combo. They're going to spend their red cube in order to discard the black cube. When they do this, they do need to gain a wear for that card, but now they get to move 3 spaces of the gear, one below the one they discarded, which is black. So they get 3 dark gray movement. And that means that they get to go 1, 2, 3, all the way over to that part of the board. This is going to give 3 wear to their card, but man, they went really far this turn. But before we actually move the card, they still have 4 yellow cubes to deal with. They can use these to buy new cubes at $2 each, or they could use these to upgrade the cubes that are currently in their discard pile. And to them, it seems like a no-brainer. They're going to spend all 4 of these yellow cubes in order to upgrade 4 of these light gray cubes into 4 dark gray cubes, which go into their use pile. And now they're going to go ahead and drive along the really fast path that they were able to use their steering, which is the red that's steering, and they're going to take some wear, and all this stuff is going to get shoved into their discard pile. And before we move on to the yellow player's turn, we need to evaluate the fact that the blue player has passed the checkered line. This is a 3-lap game, so that means the blue player moves their token up to the 2 spot to show they have completed 1 full lap. The yellow player seems to have that amazing combo as well with the red and the black. However, they have no way to get to even a dark gray zone because they have a dark gray and a white, but they need a light gray to kind of go between the white spots and the dark gray spots. So unfortunately, what that means for them is they are going to spend their red cube in order to move this dark gray over to the discard area to get 3 light gray movement, and before that, they'll spend this white, and so these 3 light grays will go 1, 2, 3, which is also going to take them across the checkered line. So we push this token up to the 2, much like the blue. They can go ahead and move these wear cubes into the used area, and now they could use this yellow to turn this into a black cube, but at this point, this black cube isn't doing that much for them. They probably want to keep it, so they're just going to use the buying power, which is 3 for the black cube and 2 for the yellow, so they have 5 buying power total. And with that 5, they've decided to get another red steering cube and then another pit cap and purple cube. So these go into their used area, as do these, because they spent them in order to grab those cubes. And then they also need to do the decline, so the highest up the track they went is the light gray. So they're going to get 2 wear for that. The yellow card drives along to that point. I guess now is technically the time when I should move the lap indicator up. And then all this stuff is going to go into their use pile and then their discard. Okay, it's back to us, and once again, we have a bunch of wear. Man, we really need to pull our purple cubes at the right time to get rid of those things. But we do have a green cube, and I think we should go ahead and use that to draw 2 cubes out of the bag and see what we get that might modify how we're able to use these last 3 cubes that we have. And the 2 we grab are, oh, well, that makes that easy, a green and a wear. So we'll just put the wear immediately in the discard, and then this green goes into our active area. And let's just do that again. We'll spend this green to grab 2 more cubes from the bag, and oh, look, another wear. All right, well, that's kind of nice that we're getting through those without having to deal with them. And now we have a light gray in our playing area. And at this point, usually this would look like a pretty good combo, but we have no good way to use it, mostly because the yellow card is blocking us. We could discard the red in order to get rid of a dark gray and get 3 light gray movement, but then we can't get around the yellow card here. And we can, in fact, discard the light gray to get 3 white movement, but then we have no way to go from where we are to the white zone. So no matter which way we do it, the best thing, unfortunately for us, is to just go dark gray, and then light gray, I think, gives us some flexibility over here, and we'll just use the 3 buying power of this red cube to buy something else. We could grab another red steering cube. They are nice because they do give you 3 buying power like we're doing right now, so worst case scenario, if you can't use it, you can buy something nice. But you could also have turns like right now where there's really no good way to use it, and it adds wear into our engine. We could also just take a gray gear cube and put that into our bag, which is not the worst idea in the world. I'm kind of trying to decide between the 2 of these. But at the end of the day, steering sounds more fun than fifth gear. So let's go ahead and grab this and see how it rolls. So that means this red bought us another red, and now we get to move on the track. Unfortunately, we still went on the dark gray spots, even though we end in a light gray area over here. We are going to get 3 wear for this dark gray zone, and we are sort of in second place, although it's likely that the yellow player will rush right past us on their next turn, and then this all gets shifted over into the discard. Before it's the blue player's turn, let's not forget that we also crossed the checkered flag, so all of us only have 2-ish laps to go. The blue player has a pretty simple turn. They've got 3 wear, which does nothing for them. Then they've got these 2 dark gray, which works pretty well for where they're at. They get to zoom along those 2 spots, but that is going to give them 3 wear at the end of the turn. And now they're left with a white cube, which they can't use and gives them no buying power, and then a yellow cube, which gives them 2 buying power. And they decide, what the heck, they're going to grab another purple cube and put that into their area. They figure they can always use one of their purple cubes to get rid of another one later on in the game, so this stuff shifts over to the discard area, and all this is going to come into their discard zone. The yellow player is going to start by spending this green cube here to draw 2 out of their bag, and they're going to keep one of them. They pulled a dark gray and a light gray. They decide to keep the dark gray and discard that light gray cube. Now they're going to spend their blue cube in order to pull 2 cubes from their discard area back into their active area, but of course you always get a wear every time you use blue cubes, and they're going to pull back a red and a black into their active area. So they'll grab these 2 light gray to move forward to those 2 spots, and then they will use this red cube and discard this black cube in order to get 3 dark gray movement, so they'll go 1, 2, 3, all the way over to there. And finally, they will use this dark gray cube to zoom all the way up to that spot. This is of course going to give them 3 wear for going on the dark gray incline. And they'll go ahead and use both of their yellow cubes, which let them upgrade cubes in their discard, and they're going to get rid of this white and this light gray, and that will turn into a light gray and a dark gray, which go into their used area. And now they'll race along this track all the way over to here, and they'll grab all of these cubes, throw those into their used pile, and discard. It's back to us, and while we may be behind, we finally have a great purple action. So we'll spend this purple, and we can just get rid of 6 wear from our engine. So that was a very good thing for our bag. And then we may as well use these 2 gear cubes to go 1 white space and then 1 gray space, getting us just a little bit more forward. These 2 wear can go right into our used pile, and now we have 2 yellow, which let us upgrade. I figure we should go ahead and do that. We will upgrade a light gray into a dark gray and a dark gray into a black. So we grab those, put those into our used area, and we are still going to take 2 wear for this light gray spot. We go forward not very far at all, and then all this stuff is going to go into our discard, and that ends our turn. It's the blue player's turn, and wow, do they have a really simple, good turn. They are right here, so they can go dark gray, and then they can go dark gray, and they can go dark gray, and finally they can go black, which takes them all the way over there, crossing the checkered line again. Now, black zones do give you 4 wear, but he also went around half the track in 1 turn. And he still has these cubes over here, so the wear cube does nothing, and now he has these 2 yellows, which he could turn these 2 dark grays into blacks, but that is probably a bad idea. He does have this white, which he could upgrade as well. But instead, he's going to spend these 2 yellow car chief cubes to get 4 buying power in order to grab a nitro green cube. Those go into the used pile, and now he zooms around the track all the way over to here, which is going to cross the checkered line, and then all of these cubes are going to go into their used pile and finally their discard. And since blue crossed the checkered line again, they go into the final zone, which means this is the final lap of the game for the blue player. And now seems like a good time to talk about how the game ends. Once a car crosses the checkered line while that car is on their final lap, that will instigate the end of the game essentially, and you will keep going until everybody has the same number of turns. We were the starting player, so that means that if the blue player crossed the finish line before anybody else, then the yellow player would get 1 more turn, but we would not because we were the starting player. And then after everybody's taken the same number of turns, the person who's farthest along wins. So let's jump right back into the game. It's the yellow player's turn, and they're going to start by spending a purple cube in order to get rid of 6 wear from their discard area. They have more than 6 wear in their discard, but that's a pretty good way to get a bunch of it out. And now they're going to spend the red and the black to do that awesome combo again. So when you spend a red, you of course take a wear into your used area, and you go 3 spaces of 1 gear below black in this case, so they get 3 dark gray movement. They are right here, so they go 1, 2, 3. Their last gear cube is this white one, which does nothing for them, so they'll just go ahead and put that in the used area. And since they went on the dark gray spots, that is 3 wear cubes from the decline. And now they're going to spend their 2 yellow Carchief cubes in order to upgrade 2 of their gear cubes. So they're going to go ahead and upgrade a white and a light gray. That'll turn into a dark gray and a light gray. So now they'll drive the car all the way over to this spot here, and then shove all of this stuff into their discard. It's back to us, and let's begin by spending this purple Pit Captain cube, which will let us get rid of 6 cubes from our discard, which is just going to be 6 wear. So that's kind of nice. We get rid of all of it, actually, although the way the game is going, this might be a little too late. And now we have this blue cube, which I think we should spend. This is the supercharged cube. When we do that, we are going to use we're going to gain 1 wear. We can grab 2 cubes from our discard and put them back into our active. There are a couple different options we could do. We could grab like a red and a black, but unfortunately, we are not in a position to go really fast along these dark gray lines because we're not attached to a dark gray yet, and we don't have any light grays. So we could grab a light gray and a red, but then we would only get to around here. I think the thing that makes more sense is to grab both of these greens to let us dig through our bag a little bit more. I can feel that there's not that many cubes in here, and if we're able to draw out enough to empty the bag, we could put this into the bag and there'd be no wear in there yet. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. We'll get both these greens back, and we'll start by using the first one. And when I go to grab my find, I only have a single wear cube in there. So that means we get to put all these guys back into our bag. We already know probably which one we are going to discard. We get to draw 1 more of these. It's a yellow, so we're definitely going to get rid of this brown, and then we'll spend the other green to grab 2 more cubes from the bag. And let's see, we got, oh man, that is a bummer. This is the combo. Well, let's see, which one do we want to keep? I think it's going to make sense for us to keep the red and get rid of the black. And the reason for that is the black is good at buying things, but we're nowhere near anything good. And if we take the red, we can actually use it on this dark gray to at least go 1, 2, 3 light gray moves, which is better than nothing, I suppose. So this black gets discarded, and then we will use the red, discarding this dark gray, to go 1, 2, 3. When we use red cubes, we gain a wear, and then we only went on gray spots, so that'll be 2 wear. We can get rid of both of these wear to our use for right now, and then we essentially have 6 buying power. There's no real reason to upgrade the gear cubes that we have in our discard area. And with the 6 buying power, I figure we should just take another blue cube. This supercharging lets us do stuff as long as there's stuff in our discard pile already, which is a bit of a caveat, but we can already see that these red cubes are much more situational, so let's go ahead and grab this one and see how it plays out for us. So those go into our used area, and then we can go ahead and move our purple car here. We are really far behind. If I'm being honest, I think it's almost for sure that we're going to come dead last in this game, but we'll see how it ends up. So these are going to go into our used pile, and all this stuff gets pushed over. We were only able to draw 6 cubes, so we're going to go ahead and put this back in and grab 1 more from the bag after we give it a good shuffle. It's the blue player's turn, and they are going to start by spending this supercharged blue cube here, which is going to immediately get them a wear, and now they can take 2 cubes from their discard and put them back into their active area. Well, they've got this black cube and this purple cube, both of which seem pretty good for them, so they'll put those into the active area, and then they'll start by spending this purple in order to get rid of 6 of this wear from their discard pile. They have a ton of wear right now. And now they're going to go ahead and spend this red and this black, much like many times before. So using the red is going to get them another wear that discards the black in order to go 3 dark gray. So they'll go 1, 2, 3. They have no use for these wear cubes here, and they also have no use for this white cube, but they have 2 upgrades which they can use on stuff in their gearbox, or they could use that buying power. And they decided to use one of these to discard this white and turn it into a light gray. And then they're just not going to use this other one. They have 2 buying power, but they don't think it makes sense to grab another pit cube when they could just grab other cubes since they are so close to winning already. And now they're going to go ahead and race around the track. They get all the way over to here. They do get 3 wear for going in the dark gray zones here. And then all the stuff is going to go into their discard pile. It's now the yellow player's turn, and unfortunately for them, they have a blue and a purple, both of which interact with the discard pile, which currently doesn't have anything in it. Then they have this red and this dark gray. They figure they're going to use the red to spend the dark gray into the used, which is going to get them a wear every time you use the steering red cube. And then they're going to get 3 light gray movements. They can go 1, 2, 3. And since they're going on the light gray spots of the board, they're going to get 2 were cubes for that decline. And actually, when you use a red cube, you discard this cube. You don't put it into your used pile. So they now could use this blue cube in order to pull this back and then use it again. But that would just give them 2 more slots, and that would actually increase the amount of wear they'd take by 2, 1 for the blue and 1 for going into a dark gray zone. So that really doesn't make sense to them. Instead, they're going to use the buying power of these. The blue has 3 buying power, and the purple and the yellow both have 2, so they have 7 buying power total. They decide to grab a green nitro cube for 4, and then one of these dark 5th gear cubes for 3, so that is their 7. So all this stuff goes into their used area, and then yellow moves forward, not terribly far in this instance. They didn't quite get to the checkered flag to start their final lap, and then all this stuff gets pushed into the discard. Okay, it's back to us. We have no wear, and we're just barely not being lapped by the leader of the game. So let's see what we can do. We have quite a few different types of cubes in our active area. Well, let's definitely go ahead and start with the green to grab 2 cubes out of the bag to see if that modifies our turn in any way. Oh, well, look at that. We can discard this wear and then get a new purple, which unfortunately is not that great for us now that I look at it. And unfortunately, all these cubes don't add up to that much for us, but let's do the best we can. We'll go ahead and spend this red, which is going to discard this dark gray over here, and it's going to get us a wear in order to get 3 light gray movement. So we can go 1, 2, 3, and now we've got this light gray and a white. So I suppose we go light gray and white. So that means the worst we got to was light gray, which is 2 of these wear cubes. And now we may as well spend this 1 purple in order to destroy this 1 wear from our area. And now we have these 2 left. Purple give 2 buying power, yellow give 2 buying power. That gives us 4, so let's go ahead and spend 3 of it on another 5th gear cube, put that into our area. We waste 1, that's not that big of a deal, and we're going to race around all the way over to here, and all this stuff is going to get shoved into our discard. It's blue's turn, and they don't actually get to go very far, thankfully, so they have 4 wear, which just kind of clog up their bag, and that'll go into the used area, and this purple doesn't really do anything for them, so they've got a dark gray and a light gray, so they may as well just do that and that. They're going to add 3 wear because the worst they got to was the dark gray spot. They have this purple cube, which gives them 2 buying power, but they decide they don't really want to use it, so they're just going to put it into their used pile. Blue is going to drive all the way up to this point here, and then all this stuff gets shoved into their discard. It's now yellow's turn. They've got 3 wear cubes, which they can just get rid of right away, and then they decide to spend this red cube here to discard this dark gray to get 3 light gray movement. The red cube is going to give them a wear into their used area, but they get to go 1, 2, 3 light grays, and they can spend this one to go a little bit farther. And the light gray is the worst they got to, so they only get 2 of these wear cubes for the decline. They've got 1 yellow cube left, which is the car chief, and they decide they're going to use it, and what the heck, they're going to upgrade this dark gray into another black 6th gear cube that goes into their area, and then they get to drive forward. This is going to cross the checkered line, putting them into their final lap, and then all the stuff gets discarded. So we're the last ones not on the final lap. Alright, it's our turn, and we didn't pull any wear, which is awesome, and we have quite a few different options here for a relatively powerful turn. So let's begin by spending a supercharged blue cube, which is going to gain us a wear, but it's going to let us pull 2 cubes from this area back into our active spot. So I think we are going to grab 1 of these light gray and 1 of these dark gray. We need the light gray to be able to get into dark gray territory. So now we can spend this light gray to go there and this dark gray to go there, and we have 2 more dark grays actually. So let's plunk those down. So we're crossing the checkered flag, so that's good. And now let's spend the next supercharged blue cube, which is going to gain us another wear, and we get to pull 2 cubes from here and put them back into our area. So we are going to grab this dark gray here. And then for the other one, we have a couple options. We could take a purple and then use it to get rid of some of this wear, or I think it's more fun to grab this green nitro cube so we can dig into the bag a little bit more. So put that over there and then immediately spend it to grab 2 cubes out of the bag. And what we're really hoping for is 1 dark gray cube. And we got, oh man, that is unfortunate. A wear and a yellow. Well, let's keep going with the plan. We can just put this wear over here, and we can spend this red one discarding this dark gray. We're going to get another wear for using this red one, and we'll get to go 3 light gray spaces. So we'll go 1, 2, 3. And now here's the question. Do we want to be here or here? We haven't seen many of these dark gray cubes, and we know we have a bunch of them. So I think we want to end here so that we're next to the dark gray spot so we can potentially go really fast on the next turn. And we're now left with 3 of these yellow car chief dice. I think we want to spend 1 of these in order to upgrade this dark gray into a black 6th gear cube because they work so well with these red steering cubes. And with these other two, we have 4 buying power. With these, we can buy everything except for another blue cube, which is okay because we have a few of those already. Really, the question is, do we want to get another green to keep digging through the bag and try and find good stuff? Or maybe just take another red, considering we now have that black cube, we really want to get that red-black combo going. Let's go ahead and do that. We will grab this red cube from the supply and hope to get a really big bang near the end. So now we go ahead and drive along the track. This is probably our best turn we've had in a while. We are going to get 3 more wear though because we ended on the dark gray spot. So all these cubes are going to get taken off the board and we crossed the checkered flag. So hooray, we are in the final lap as well. So now we draw 7 more cubes and we can actually feel that there are no more in there, and holy cow, that is a terrible draw. Oh my gosh, 5 wear. All right, it's the blue player's turn and they have 4 wear, which they can't use at all. And then they have this 1 white, which they decide not to use. Because if they use this white, then next turn they'll only be next to white and light gray. And they'd honestly rather be here where they're next to white, light gray, and dark gray for a better next turn. So they're just going to discard this because it gives them no bonus. And now they've got these 2, and they decide, what the heck, they're going to upgrade a dark gray and a light gray, which is going to turn into a dark gray and a black cube. So all this stuff goes over here. They don't move at all. These go away, and they'll discard all this stuff and draw 7 more cubes. Now it's time for the yellow player. They've got a couple wear, which they can just get rid of right away because that's not going to do them any good. Next up, they'll spend their green nitro cube to grab 2 cubes from the bag. They're going to keep 1 and discard 1, and oh, well, that's pretty simple. They will discard this wear and keep the black, which is really good for them. As much as they'd love to spend this red steering cube in order to discard the black, they can't get around us. We have actually blocked them in, but they've got a pretty good turn anyway. They will use this red cube. They're going to grab a wear for doing so. They're going to discard this dark gray cube in order to move 3 light gray spots. So that'll be 1, 2, 3. Then they'll throw this guy down here, and now they've got the black cube. So they can go all the way over there, and then finally drop this light gray cube, which puts them in the lead, I think, for the first time in the game. They are going to grab 4 wear cubes for going along the black section of the track. And now they have no cubes left over, so there's nothing they can buy, so they will drive through that course, taking the lead in the game, and then all the stuff gets taken and thrown into their use pile and their discard. It's back to us with our abysmal draw. So the first thing we'll do is just move all 5 of these wear to the used area, and, well, see, we're over here. We're not even next to black at the moment, so let's go ahead and spend this green cube, which lets us pull 2 from the bag, and as I said before, we just felt when we pull those cubes out that there's nothing left. So all these cubes are going to go in, and we're going to pull 2 out, and man, we really hope these are going to be good for us. We get a brown and a red. Okay, that actually is pretty good for us. So we'll discard the brown wear cube, and now we have a red and a black, which is kind of the magic combo for this specific setup. So we will discard the black using the red, which is going to get us another wear. We are just drowning in wear at this point. But that means we get to move 3 dark gray spaces right here. So we go 1, 2, 3. We are the first player, so it feels like we're back in the action, but we're still definitely behind. But at least this is a bit of a catch-up, even though we're going to get 3 more wear cubes. Actually, I take it back. I just clarified with the rules that we will technically be drafting. It's whenever you are directly behind a segment of another car or behind the space. So I'm not going to put those on the board, just kidding. We've got no cubes in order to buy anything, so we'll go ahead and drive out to this spot over here. And then that's nice, we don't put any more wear into our spot, and then we'll discard all this stuff and grab 7 more cubes. It's the blue player's turn, and they're going to begin by spending their nitro green cube in order to grab 2 cubes from the bag. They'll get to keep 1 and discard 1, and okay, well, they'll keep a wear and they'll discard a wear. At this point, the blue player is realizing he's kind of getting blocked in. Because we're right here, it makes it hard to shift into the outer sections of the board right now. So they're definitely going to spend this blue supercharged cube in order to, well, first of all, gain a wear, and then pull 2 of these cubes over. They're definitely going to grab this purple because they need to do something about all this wear that's in their engine. And the other cube will be a black one, even though they can't use it. They figure it's 3 buying power. So now they will use this purple to get rid of up to 6 things in their discard pile. Well, that's just going to be 6 wear, pretty much a no-brainer there. And then they'll go ahead and use this dark gray cube to go right here. It gets them a little bit farther along the board. They'll shift up due to inertia, and they're not going to take any wear for that because they'll be drafting right behind me. So they go ahead and use this wear, which does nothing for them, and now they've got some yellows and some blacks. They have decided they want to spend 1 of these yellows in order to turn this white guy right here into a light gray, which goes into their used pile. And now they have a black and a yellow. The blacks are worth 3 buying power, the yellows are worth 2, so they have 5 buying power total. And with that 5, they decide to grab another steering red die and another pit captain purple die because, man, they have so much wear, and, well, these reds are really good at squeezing around the board, so they'll go ahead and use them. We'll move the car up the one tiny little spot there, and then all this stuff gets used, and they draw 7 more. It's the yellow player's turn, and they will start by spending a purple in order to get rid of up to 6 stuff. It's going to be 6 wear, and they still have tons of wear. This is a tiny dent in their current discard pile situation, but hey, it's better than nothing. Next up, they're going to spend both of these yellow cubes in order to do the upgrade action. They're going to get rid of these 2 light gray cubes, and they're going to grab 2 dark gray cubes into their used area. And unfortunately for them, they can't really do much with white, dark gray, black. They are right here, so they can't even get to white. They could do dark gray, which gets them there, but they still can't touch white or black. And honestly, they decide it's not worth it to go that tiny little bit of space forward to grab the wear. So instead, they're just going to have, let's see, 2 + 3 or 5 buying power. And with that, they're just going to grab 1 green nitro cube to try and draw through and get rid of all those wear that they're dealing with. So all this stuff gets discarded, and they'll drop back to 7. They've only got 2, so they'll do a big discard shuffle. It's back to us, and things are actually looking pretty good. Neither of our opponents really moved on our last turn. We're a little bit blocked by the yellow, but we might actually be in this. So let's see what our options are. We have 2 wear, so we'll just get rid of those right away. And we've got 1 green nitro cube, so let's go ahead and use that to draw 2 cubes out of the bag. We get to keep 1 and discard the other. And, well, that's simple. We'll discard the wear, and now we have another red. That's unfortunately more red than we actually need in this situation. So now let's go ahead and spend this purple to get rid of 6 stuff from our discard. It'll just be 6 wear. And now we can use 1 of these red cubes. We will discard this dark gray, and then we will gain a wear for using the red. And that will get us 3 light gray movement. We are right here, so we can go 1, 2, 3. And then we actually still have this white, which is relevant at this part of the game, which is surprising. And that'll get us all the way over there, which puts us in the lead temporarily. This leaves us with 1 red steering cube, which has 3 buying power. Let's go ahead and just grab another 5th gear dark gray cube for that 3 and throw those in there, and then go ahead and discard these, and then we will drive along the track all the way to here. We only went on light gray, which means we're only going to get 2 wear for doing that, which is really not too bad. We can go ahead and shift the blue player forward, and now let's grab 7 more cubes. It's now the blue player's turn, so they're going to go ahead and get rid of this wear, just put it into their use pile, and now they're going to grab these 2 dark gray cubes, and then spend this red cube discarding this dark gray to get 3 light gray out of it. They're going to take a wear for using that red. Getting them 3 light gray goes 1, 2, 3, and then they have this 1 light gray, which gets them there, which means they are 1 space away from ending the game, essentially. And looking at where the yellow player is, they would not be able to catch up. So the blue player is really bummed that they were not able to end the game on this turn, but there was just no way for them to make it work. The last thing they have is this 1 yellow cube. They'll go ahead and use it, and they'll get rid of this light gray cube right here in order to grab another dark gray 1. Looking out on the board, they went on the dark gray spots, so that's going to give them 3 wear when they zoom around to right in front of the finish line. So we are kind of in luck. We'll see how we're able to go. Unfortunately, we did not draw that good of a hand. So let's go ahead and take all this stuff, and that all gets discarded. Alright, so it is the yellow player's turn. They can go ahead and get rid of these 2 wear into their use pile right away. And now they pretty much just have the black-red combo when these yellows don't do anything for them. So looking out on the board, they can definitely use it. So they will discard this black. They're going to gain a wear for using the red, and that's going to get them 3 dark gray movement. So they'll go 1, 2, 3, and wow, this race is getting pretty close here. And they're going to take 3 wear for going on the dark gray section of the board. They currently have 3 more of these yellow Karchief cubes, each of them giving 2 buying power, so 6 total because they have nothing really to upgrade. And with 6 buying power left, they figure they may as well take a blue. They know that they're not going to be going through their entire bag anyway. They have so many cubes in there, so this is a bit inconsequential. So this stuff gets pushed into the used, and now they will drive along up to this point, and this is how we end this current round. We are still losing. I'm pretty sure this is going to be the final round of the game. We'll see if we're able to do much with it. Alright, so it's our turn, and first of all, we just get rid of these 2 wear. Those aren't doing anything for us. And now, unfortunately, these 3 yellows are effectively wear for us. They don't let us move along the board, and man, this is a really bad turn to pull all 3 of these, but that's kind of the way the game works. Realistically, our best thing we can do right now is just spend this blue, which is nice. That's going to cost us a wear, which goes into our used area. And we get to pull 2 cubes from our discard pile into our main area. Well, right off the bat, I think we definitely want to take a red because we can squeeze 3 light gray movement out of this dark gray one, and we really want at least 1 light gray. In fact, we'll probably just use that for 1 light gray movement because we've been kind of jammed in by the other players. But lastly, we have this black right here, and if we used it, with the red, we could get dark gray movement, but again, we can't actually get to dark gray. Ugh. So realistically, the best thing that we can do is to take a green and draw from the bag and hope. So let's take this one right here, and then let's just use it. So we'll spend this 1 green to draw 2 cubes from our bag. All right, we pulled 2 cubes from the bag. This is a really important draw, and we were able to pull, oh, nice. All right, well, let's see, a blue and a black. What kind of stuff can we do with those? Well, right off the bat, looking at the black, I don't think we can really do anything with it. So let's go ahead and discard this because we're not going to be able to get over to this spot over here to actually activate it. But this blue is important because it would let us grab the red-blue combo. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll spend this blue, which we just pulled out, which is super awesome. That's going to cost us another wear, but who cares at this point? And we can grab 2 things from our area. We'll take the red and the black, and now let's see what we can do with this stuff over here. Let's immediately spend this, this red, and we're going to discard this dark gray, and we're going to take another wear for doing that. We get 3 light gray movement. Realistically, all we want to do, in fact, let's just use this. We really just want to move to here, because now that we have this combo, we are able to touch the light gray. We could go here as well. It doesn't really matter. Either way, we're going to be wasting some of those light gray movements. And now, let's spend this red. We're going to discard the black to get 3 dark gray movements. We're going to take another wear into our car, and with those 3 dark gray movements, we get to go 1, 2, 3. And that seems like a reasonable way to end the game. At least we're crossing the checkered flag. I'm not sure if it'll actually be enough, but we'll just have to see what the last 2 people do. So we've got these 3 cubes over here, but it's not even worth buying anything. The game is obviously over, so I'm just going to discard this stuff, shove it all over, and it doesn't even really matter about grabbing new cubes for our hand. So we zoom on ahead all the way up to here, pulling both these cubes back, and that puts us into the finish territory. And now it is the blue player's turn. So they start off by getting rid of one of these wares. That's not going to do them any good. In fact, they can just get rid of both of these purples right off the bat. They can do nothing with them, so they'll just get them out of their hair. They don't have to think about it. Next up, they're going to spend this red, and they're going to discard this dark gray, which is pretty important because this blue only works with discards. They're going to gain a wear for doing that, but they're going to get 3 light gray movement, so they'll get to go 1, 2, 3. Next up, they will spend this blue here, which is going to gain them another wear to pull up to 2 cubes back. Well, they'll just get this one, and now they are going to put this light gray there and this dark gray there, so they're just barely going to get ahead of us. They have no cubes left, and it doesn't really matter about buying anything anyway, so they will drive along here. This is going to cross the finish line for them, putting them ahead of us. All this stuff gets discarded. And now we have the final turn of the game. Right off the bat, we can get rid of these 2 wear cubes. They're not going to do anything for that player. And this might seem like a pretty good turn for yellow with the 2 dark gray and the 2 red. Unfortunately, they're not currently next to a light gray in order to make use of that. So what that means is they have to use one of these dark grays to go all the way up here, and now they can spend this red. They're going to gain a wear, and they're going to discard this dark gray to get 3 light gray movement. So that will put them 1, 2, 3. And unfortunately for yellow, they really can't do anything useful with this yellow cube, and the red cube, well, it needs something in their active area to actually use, so that means they have nothing else they can do. They'll go ahead and drive across, go across the checkered flag, and this is actually a really close race. If you'll notice, we are just barely farther along, so the game is over. Blue was unfortunately able to win, but we were able to pull off a 2nd place finish, which surprises me considering how bad we were doing in the mid-game, and yellow comes in 3rd. And that was a full game of Automobiles. Since this is a playthrough video, I won't be reviewing the game at this time, but if I do review it in the future, you can definitely click a link somewhere on the screen or down below in the description to go ahead and see that. If you'd like to see more full game playthroughs like this one, as well as in-depth reviews and vlogs, please subscribe to my channel. You can also directly support it at patreon.com/JohnGetsGames. Thanks for watching.